Now, with respect to the situation in the Middle East, obviously there's still a lot of work to be done in Egypt itself, but what we've seen so far is positive. The military council that is in charge has reaffirmed its treaties with countries like Israel and international treaties. It has met with the opposition, and the opposition has felt that it is serious about moving towards fair and free elections. Egypt's going to require help in building democratic institutions and also in strengthening an economy that's taken a hit as a consequence of what happened. But so far, at least, we're seeing the right signals coming out of Egypt. There are ramifications, though, throughout the region. And I think my administration's approach is the approach that jibes with how most Americans think about this region, which is that each country is different. Each country has its own traditions. America can't dictate how they run their societies, but there are certain universal principles that we adhere to. One of them is we don't believe in violence as a way of, and coercion as a way of maintaining control. And so we think it's very important that in all the protests that we're seeing throughout the region, that governments respond to peaceful protesters peacefully. The second principle that we believe in strongly is in the right to express your opinions, the freedom of speech and freedom of assembly that allows people to share their grievances with the government and to express themselves in ways that hopefully will, over time, meet their needs. And so, we have sent a strong message to our allies in the region saying, let's look at Egypt's example as opposed to Iran's example. I find it ironic that you've got the Iranian regime pretending to celebrate what happened in Egypt, when in fact they have acted in direct contrast to what happened in Egypt by gunning down and beating people who were trying to express themselves peacefully in Iran. And I also think that an important lesson, and I mentioned this last week, that we can draw from this is real change in these societies is not going to happen because of terrorism. It's not going to happen because you go around killing innocents. It's going to happen because people come together and apply moral force to a situation. That's what garners international support. That's what garners internal support. That's how you bring about lasting change. Patricia Zengerle.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah. Getting back to the unrest in the Middle East and North Africa, what concerns do you have about instability, especially in Saudi Arabia, as the demonstrations spread? Do you foresee any effects on oil prices? And talking about Iran, can you comment about the unrest there more? What is your message to the Iranian people in light of there was some criticism that your administration didn't speak out strongly enough after their last, the demonstrations in Iran after their elections? Excuse me.
That's okay. Well, first of all, on Iran, we were clear then and we are clear now that what has been true in Egypt should be true in Iran, which is that people should be able to express their opinions and their grievances and seek a more responsive government. What's been different is the Iranian government's response, which is to shoot people and beat people and arrest people. And my hope and expectation is that we're going to continue to see the people of Iran have the courage to be able to express their yearning for greater freedoms and a more representative government, understanding that America cannot ultimately dictate what happens inside of Iran any more than it could inside of Egypt. Ultimately, these are sovereign countries that are going to have to make their own decisions. What we can do is lend moral support to to those who are seeking a better life for themselves. Obviously, we're concerned about stability throughout the region. Each country is different. The message that we've sent, even before the demonstrations in Egypt, has been to friend and foe alike that the world is changing, that you have a young, vibrant generation within the Middle East that is looking for greater opportunity, and that if you are governing these countries, you've got to get out ahead of change. You can't be behind the curve. And so, I think that the thing that will actually achieve stability in that region is if young people, if ordinary folks end up feeling that there are pathways for them to feed their families, get a decent job, get an education, aspire to a better life. And the more steps these governments are taking to provide these avenues for mobility and opportunity, the more stable these countries are. You can't maintain power through coercion. At some level, in any society, there has to be consent. And that's particularly true in this new era where people can communicate not just through some centralized government or a state-run TV, but they can get on a smartphone or a Twitter account and mobilize hundreds of thousands of people. My belief is that as a consequence of what's happened in Tunisia and Egypt, governments in that region are starting to understand this. And my hope is that they can operate in a way that is responsive to this hunger for change, but always do so in a way that doesn't lead to violence. Chip Reed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Actually, I'm going to have to get my glasses out to read these
Oh,
numbers here.
that's a bad sign there, Chip.
A little fine print, in the budget, Mr. President. You said that this budget is not going